wanted to do a react video to the new Alien Romulus official trailer, and it looks like this just came out an hour ago, thereabouts. I haven't seen it yet. I started watching it. I got about 10 seconds in, and then I was like, I really should do a react video, mainly because this channel back in the day was dedicated to reacting to Ridley Scott's movies, including Prometheus, but also Alien Covenant. So I thought it's tradition to watch this kind of thing, and I've already seen, I guess, like the teaser for it, and I forget how long that was. Maybe that was a minute and a half. I get confused between the difference between a teaser and a trailer, but this looks like it's an actual like trailer. It's not a sizzle reel. By the looks of the first 10 seconds or so that I watched, it seems like they're actually trying to tell something more coherent. The traditional gothic kind of plight. The heroine starts off in a particular position. She has to go into hell and face various dangers, similar to any monomythic hero. And they're sort of setting that up, and I imagine it's going to get darker and more intense as the trailer goes, as it should. The friend who shared this with me compared it to Dead Space, which is good because Dead Space is basically built off of Alien. Alien was Dead Space before Dead Space was a thing, and it's all part of a larger chain of like cosmic nihilism and gothic horror in outer space, which predates Lovecraft for that matter, but he certainly helped crystallize that in the 20th century by really leaning into sort of a decayed science fiction that explores ancient ruins. At the Mountains of Madness is a really good example of that, and a lot of science fiction in the 20th century, including Alien, followed that formula very closely. Alien is basically at the Mountains of Madness, and Dead Space is basically Alien, though in the case of Dead Space, they don't actually tell the story from the point of view of the explorers. You're just a maintenance guy. So that's kind of keeping in theme with the way that the Alien series plays out, insofar as you have blue-collar folk on the side of the Imperial core looking outwards into space as something to colonize, and they confront these buried horrors that wake up. It's the standard issue, the ghost of the counterfeit and process of abjection. You go out and see things that are displaced from the Imperial core, and then you shoot them or run from them or hide. And all that being said, let's give this a look. I'm not very good at reactions, like, because I don't tend to react to things unless I get really excited, but usually it's more like I'll just sit through it and watch it. I don't tend to react at all, really. I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm going to absorb everything, and then I'll talk about it afterwards. So, yeah, without further ado, let's do this. Armpit. Very good.
Is this really where you want to spend the rest of your life?
You know I don't.
Multiracial couple. Alien Covenant.
Then this is our only ticket out of here.
Four minorities. Straight out of the And I love Fede Alvarez, specifically for his
What's happening?
There's something in the water.
What do you mean there's something in the water?
I don't know, there's just something in the fucking water. Fucking thing's hunting us.
Open the door, come on!
run.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Okay, yeah, that was fucking cool as hell. I said I normally don't react unless I'm really excited, but honestly, that looked incredible. Um, my general impressions are that it's based very much off that run style instead of gun style, because in Alien versus Aliens, you have two different approaches: run away from the monster or shoot it. So James Cameron is very much of the Heinlein neoconservative science fiction of Starship Troopers and the competent man made Amazonian as a neoliberal Vietnam revenge fantasy with aliens. So very much about facing the ghost of settler colonial horrors, quite literally, the ghost of Vietnam, and shoot it, and ultimately take off and nuke the site from orbit. So it's very vindictive and nasty from a political standpoint, as is Pax Americana more broadly. But the the basic idea is shoot monster, police monster, kill it. Whereas in the original Alien, it's much more along the lines of run away from the monster, because you can't kill it. You can't kill Medusa. And Ash, in the original Alien, pointed that out. How do you kill it? You can't. You can only run away from it. You can only avoid it. And as far as all of that goes, one second, cat, wait. You can only run away. You can avoid it, but it always comes back. It always returns from the grave, because it's not actually dead. It's undead. It's a ghost, and it haunts these particular kinds of stories. And that's the whole point of the Ghost of the Counterfeit, is that behind the lie of Western sovereignty is a decaying castle that's haunted by the atrocities of its own creation, which under capitalism would be genocide, settler colonialism, that kind of thing. And these kinds of stories, in the process, in Alien in particular, these people aren't attacking Medusa, they're running away from her. And it's often the plight of blue-collar workers that are sort of roped into a predatory scheme that treats them as victims, not to the same extent that it does people on the receiving end of colonial violence, which is, of course, the Medusa having her head cut off, that kind of thing. But in the case of aliens, of course, the alien is shot. They hunt it down, they kill it, they exterminate it. The settler colonial argument taken to its logical conclusion, which is to kill them all. So I'm noticing a particular run away from the monster style in this, which is, under more recent texts, very comparable to Alien Isolation and the first Dead Space, which is closer to Alien in spirit than Aliens. Even though you are killing the necromorphs in that game, you're a lot less armed to the teeth. The whole point is that you're a maintenance guy and you're making like these homemade weapons in a way that feels a lot less militarized and a lot more improvised. It's asymmetrical warfare, and most of the time you're just running and hiding. You know, it's the white Indian narrative, basically. And in this, it's a very similar kind of idea where they're telling the plight of the people under the company trying to find a means of escape, and while they're trying to do that in a frontier kind of narrative where they go to try and elevate themselves through a fantasy of assimilation gone wrong, the myth of the modern Prometheus comes to the fore, and they come face to face with alien weaponized technology, right? The science fiction story that has a militarized component that comes back around, per the Imperial boomerang, to bite these people in the ass. So again, they're a buffer between the company and its own atrocities that it's trying to reclaim and weaponize, as it always does. Per these cycles of gentrification and decay, they are always releasing power so they can reclaim it again on combat missions, which in this case are foisted onto these workers who don't have combat experience but are sent out into the world to explore, scouts, if you will, or living in mining camps, sort of a colonial narrative where the colonists are under attack by the Native Americans, the Indians, the escaped slaves, whatever you want the alien to represent, it is attacking these colonists. So either you have the militarized colonist or you have something like a scientist or a worker. And a lot of these workers, this is the point of view of the working stiff, the blue collar minority. So it's a little bit more inclusive. There are problems with representation insofar as, again, Medusa is alienated from the people looking at it who live within the imperial core. So the problem with representation is it is assimilative, and to some point of view they become alienated from their own atrocities, the atrocities of their people, which become forgotten, and then they run into them again on the frontiers where you're more likely to bump into this shit. But this is all good. It feels like a regression back towards the kinds of spiritual texts that would honor the original Alien, so Dead Space 1 and Alien Isolation. And there's little nods to Alien, like the motion tracker sound, of course, and it's very iconic. But they're leaning mostly into run. Like they say, run, you can't fight it. And there are a couple instances where you see some guns and some weapons. But for the most part, I didn't see a lot of that. So what I want to do now is I want to watch the whole thing again, but I want to sort of take my time and just sort of go over it piece by piece. So again, the shot of the dirty window with the rain on it, very indicative of Blade Runner. You know, those whites, those reds, those yellows with the blue background, a lot of primary colors, and shot in a way that really reminds me of Aliens when they're touching down on LV-426, and they actually have physical windows. They're not static blue screens as they were back in the day, but they're actually windows with something behind them. And then they put actual grit and grime and mist on that glass with the slats. So very much sort of a cyberpunk narrative. This must be Earth or some colonial space with an atmospheric processor. So this is the home away from home, a shake and bake colony, if you will. That would be my guess. And it's a deadbeat cyberpunk kind of world, very much in the vein of Blade Runner, and they want to get the hell out of Dodge. They want to go somewhere. They want to go to the frontier where they can make their dreams come true, somewhere over the rainbow. Except that's not what's waiting for them at the end of said rainbow. It's death, it's disaster, it's the horrors of the very thing that is happening to their ancestors. If we're speaking to minorities who have assimilated, they're looking upon genocides that, per Palestine and Israel, are happening right now. Also, real quick, the red lighting and the peal of thunder, it's a scheme that really reminds me of the blues and the reds. Really remind me of Aliens, but also this kind of reminds me of an American flag, red, white, and blue, right? But it's decayed. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it's a nice touch. So this is our resident gothic heroine, pale skin, brown hair. She looks kind of buff, actually. If you look at her arm, she's got a little bit of muscle. I'm an erotic artist, so I spend a lot of time drawing bodies, male or female, but she looks fairly fit. She wakes up, you have a Polaroid, and she's in the tank top kind of thing, so she has kind of a tomboy vibe, very similar to Ripley. These are all echoes of Ripley, basically, but already just on this first glance, again, very similar shot to some of the scenes in Aliens, when the aliens cut the power, or when they turn off most of the lights. That submarine kind of lighting, it's claustrophobic. There's an overhead red light and emergency lighting, if you will. So they're already in a presence of claustrophobia, of darkness, with that sort of emergency red light, the light of danger. So their lives kind of suck, basically.
Is this really where you want to spend?
real quick, the cyberpunk kind of thing, the storms living in the shadow of this colossal atmospheric processor. Is this really where you want to be
The rest of your life.
for the rest of your life? And them coming and going. The guy who's talking, I assume, I thought it was this guy looking at her. So sort of the Parker, the token black character, basically. Ripley having a bit of seasickness or air sickness, basically, and he's sort of checking her out the way that Hicks was checking Ripley out. So she has a bit of nerves. He's the resident, tough guy who's looking after her, basically, except they're both tokenized as far as I can tell.
You know I don't.
And that the outfits very much remind me of Alien, very retro future, decayed, and hauntological. It's the retro future of the 1970s recreated for the upteenth time, and the Alien Covenant couples kind of thing, multiracial couples. In Alien Covenant, it seemed like they did have a bit of that going on. Ridley Scott is definitely more inclusive, and just sex positive than James Cameron, less American. So he's a more left-leaning British director. So his influence is felt on this as directed by Fede Alvarez, who's, not actually American. He's from Mexico. So you have a non-North American director who's basically being overseen or approved, produced by Ridley Scott, who's also not American. So that Pax Americana isn't really present here. You can see little touches of it, but they've definitely gone back to Ridley Scott's vision of the future, which is a good thing, I think. It's more critical of neoliberalism. This shot, just straight out of like Alien Covenant, that halo of mist around the planet, the clouds. It's very red and black, very ominous, kind of a volcanic, hostile world that they're trying to colonize. Those rings kind of reminds me of like Saturn. So this makes me think of like one of the moons of Saturn. I think Enceladus is the name of the moon on Saturn, and then there's Triton with Jupiter. I could be getting the names wrong, but it looks something like that. It's a very primordial volcanic kind of world, but the shot looks straight out of Alien Covenant. Them flying into the sun, Icarus style. You have a real window with light going through it. It's photographed. Looks fucking awesome. It looks straight out of Alien, but again, you have actual lighting behind the window. I love that. It's a real nice touch. You have multiple women. In this case, it looks like at least two. And then the pilot, of course. I have to wonder if any of them are androids. So yeah, this is our resident Ripley with her bomber jacket, basically. Looks kind of toasty, actually. So it's a cold industrial kind of ship. Note the yellow and black bandings, that industrial kind of look to it, very similar to the Hacienda with by Joy Division / New Order. That Danger Disco kind of look, which is basically what Alien was around the time that Thatcherism sort of punched into the British existence and sort of sat aside and dismantled Bretton Woods and the labor movement. So this is a decay, it's a regression. And you can see touches of that here.
Then this is our only ticket out.
So again, another non-white character. He looks Latino, maybe, and they're thrown into the same frying pan, basically. They have the same lot in life, and they're trying to get away.
Okay.
And it's desperate too. It's risky. I love the spaceship effects. I imagine a lot of this is digital at this point, but it looks really good. I love, ever since I saw Prometheus and the way that the ships sail through outer space. Like, don't get me wrong, I liked the spaceship effects in something like the original Star Wars or 2001: A Space Odyssey, but here it's just like very mobile, very dynamic, very sweeping, and a lot of again, some oranges and black, very Halloween, some yellows. It's cool. It has its own kind of color theme. The sphincter of the ship, but this time they're really stressing the pointed, instead of the blades sort of feeding into each other and creating a cylinder type shape. In the sphincter, you have teeth. So it's very much a belly of the beast. Again, everything's photographed. I like the lights sort of flickering on and off. Again, this is a ship that's falling apart. It's powered down and very much has that Ron Cobb inspired internalized softer organ-like tunnels of the Nostromo. Like we had these soft tissue pale segments of the Nostromo, and then the metal doors, the vaginal doors. It's all very Freudian. And I wonder if the semiotic standard will pop up. I love that though. Let's see if I can. Yeah, this is very hellish. Again, a lot of oranges. It looks kind of like Cameron's Inferno, the scene in Terminator 2, where it's the fires of hell, basically. And it goes all the way back to something like The Tiger by William Blake. So that British romantic tradition that's kept alive through Ridley Scott. And not just William Blake, of course, but Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, obviously, Prometheus to Alien Covenant. So something like this, you're kind of bouncing around back and forth in that kind of poetic narrative. And this is yet another instance of people trapped in a situation where something from the ancient past gets loose in a retro future castle, and it's a ghost of the past. And that's intimated by the function of this ship basically being a furnace, and the workers are the fuel. Walking seriously. This looks straight out of Alien Isolation. The scene where you have to escape the part of the ship that gets jettisoned from the Sevastopol into the planet that looks a lot like Jupiter, and into the gas giant, and it looks a lot like that. Just that sort of curving tunnel that they're walking around the circumference of. Everything is really nicely photographed too. There's always a lot of light. A lot of it looks really photographed. That looks, digital, but it's imitating a scene from Aliens. If you like that, you're gonna love this. Yeah, everything looks great. No complaints. Like, nothing's leaping out at me in terms of the visuals. Again, I wasn't the biggest fan of Don't Breathe. It had a couple of really good scenes, but Evil Dead was actually a legitimately awesome film. Okay, so you have the Who inspired lighting from the original Alien, and even some of the sound effects, that weird kind of whining noise, and the guy kneeling. Almost looks like a working Joe in that dark tracksuit with the pale sneakers, and whatever the heck that is that he's holding, I don't know. And the background here almost looks like the hive from. It almost looks like the hive from Aliens, and it's lit in the same kind of way, where you have a blind corner, and then you have this light punching through around the bend, and then you have this negative, or the negative space is filled with light, and the positive space is too dark to see, and he's kind of blending in with that. This is very similar to the way that Yaphet Kotto did. So that's, yeah, no, I love it. These sliding doors very much in a style of just a larger, more open space that kind of reminds me of Prometheus. Like the opening scenes when they're on board the Prometheus, and you have like these big hangar-sized tunnels, very similar to that, like when David's walking around at the start of Prometheus. Very cool. And of course the silhouettes, the three people standing, reminds me of some of the promo art to the original Alien, the three people in their spacesuits, except they're exploring the inside of their ship, which has become alien and inhospitable, comparable to the surface of LV-426. Very good. Again, I just want to pause every single second. It's nice to see that Ridley Scott's involved. I love the lighting. Like, this is a real set. These are all real sets. The sound of the motion tracker that they have. Look at those screens. Everything looks like it was made in the 1970s. This is so cool. Um, I love the lighting. Oh, and she's shining the light on her chest. So she's the token Asian character, and she's about to get seriously fucked up. And so she's shining the light through her body, and you can see the looks like she has a bit of damage. I don't know if that's oil or blood or what. And the bald head also kind of reminds me of Alien 3. You can see that body horror kind of thing, the creature moving around inside her. And then, yeah, appropriate response. Like, that's really gross. And the knocking, like punching through her ribs. Oh, it's like the way that they're approaching body horror here. Like, it feels similar to Ridley Scott, but it kind of reminds me, Fede Alvarez in the Evil Dead movie that he did had a certain kind of build up that had its own sort of style, and I can't really explain it any better than that. Just that he had his own approach to the build up and the release. Like, you can actually kind of anticipate it and see it. Like, this is very different from the chestburster scene in Aliens, where bam, it just kind of punches out of Kane very quickly, and you don't have a chance to see something like this with X-ray vision. Whereas in like Alien Covenant or even this, you know it's coming, but they still find a way to make it interesting and fun. And then the bird logo, and the sound effects, of course, were very good there. I like where they cut away and you can only hear. It reminds me of Lambert screaming in the original Alien. You can't see her get violated, you just hear the squelching. Nice touch. So now here, I can't read that, the Romulus lab, and you have some kind of, it looks like almost like these fertility goddesses underneath this bear or some other kind of thing. It has a very sort of ancient Egyptian or a hieroglyphic kind of look to it. It's also a stamp. I can't read the font. I'm trying to lean in, and if that says Wayland Yutani, it looks Wayland. Okay, so it's Wayland Yutani. So this isn't the Wayland Yutani, but Wayland. So it's that shared universe kind of thing where they changed the spelling. But the Wayland Yutani Corporation has again that Orientalist, like that non-Western kind of name or corporate merger, and again from 1979. 1986 to the present, that kind of cyberpunk regression or decay of the Western world in the face of something non-Western, or something non-Western that was colonized, like Japan. So you see that in Blade Runner with cyberpunk, that's overshadowed by this Wayland Yutani neoliberal sort of stamp. The door looks great. Again, this is a real door. Nothing looks hokey or fake at all. Real set, lighting, like again, everything is this guy almost looks unconscious, and he's looks like, you know, looking over his shoulder like he's being hunted. I love the lighting.
What?
These almost look like they're designed, like there's a little temperature thing. These are like incubators. So this is a research lab, right? You saw the research lab on the door. They must be breeding these, right? The weapons division. They finally got some. So this must be after Alien, I would imagine. I don't know the plot or anything to this movie, so I'm just guessing. But they got this, and they're testing it on their own workers. So instead of sending them to their deaths to acquire a specimen, now they're doing that alien resurrection kind of thing, and they're testing it on the frontier of space. This is literally capitalism in action, moving money through nature, moving money through blue-collar workers, crew expendable.
What's happening?
Yeah, no, it's just kind of gross. And so they get pulled into the water. I have to wonder if that's caused by a face hugger. It seems unlikely. They're so small. Maybe he tripped. And she's watching this person through the door.
There's something in the water.
What do you mean there's something?
I don't know, there's just something in the fucking water.
And I don't know what he's holding. So you can see it trying to shove the tentacle down his mouth. So this is the rape, right? And the ovipositor with the hand is literally grabbing onto his face. He's face fucking him, but you can actually see that penetration. That was something that Ridley Scott, in particular, did in a way that James Cameron kind of shied away from, and very much leaning into that is Fede Alvarez. And it almost looks like he's fighting it. He's trying to spit it out, but then it wins in the end. Yeah, can't quite tell what that is. It looks like a hand or something.
Fucking things hunting us.
Yeah, there's just a lot of really good shots. Like, I love that. Kind of reminds me of the shot from the Blair Witch Project with the guy standing in the corner. Like, it's just kind of creepy looking, like almost like she's sneaking up on him. He's a statue, but he's also looking into the dark void. Something's hunting us, so he's looking out into the unknown. Oh, it's just, every shot in this looks great. And of course, you have the Vasquez, Ellen Ripley type Amazon. She looks like she has the gun with the light.
Open the door, come on!
And then you see just a little bit of the xenomorph behind her. She says, "Open the door." So it's very much the single monster picking the crew off one by one. At least at the start. Maybe they'll do an alien isolation where there's actually multiple xenomorphs.
Run.
Again, run. Don't fight it. Run away. Because if they're on a space station, they can't shoot it. It'll burn through the hull. It's got a wonderful defense mechanism. You don't dare kill it. Runs quickly. So that Dutch angle where they're being chased by someone like on a dolly or some kind of tracking shot, it almost looks like they're being chased by facehuggers. Or it could be an alien that's crouching and running on all fours. But given that shot, I don't think so. But I love that idea again. When the facehuggers in this are fast, and it looks a little bit digitized, but honestly, nowhere near to the degree that I feel bothered. You know, these are filmed on real sets, and this looks very nicely shot. Also, real quick here, this almost looks like an army helmet before the light turns on. Help me. And it's just so nicely shot. Like, this just looks awesome. And of course the actress is really selling it. Help me. And you can hear her sort of terrified because she's trapped in this diver suit. This kind of reminds me of the scene from The Terror, which was also produced by Ridley Scott, where the guy goes underwater in the diving suit and then he sees the dead body floating towards him, or he hallucinates it. Very similar here, sort of a mirror syndrome, claustrophobic kind of compartment syndrome sort of effect. It's really good. And then you cut to this. This almost looks like a helmet too, but that lighting through the mist and the xenomorph with its head facing down and it slowly unfolds. Very much like in the scene from Alien when Brett is about to be killed. You know, in space, no one can hear you scream. So she's like, oh crap, and then something is above her coming down. But it doesn't actually attack her. It just pushes water through the vent above her, and she's trying to keep quiet. A very interesting kind of shot too. Again, everything's very sort of claustrophobic and a real stunt by the looks of it, and it just everything. This really reminds me of Doom 3, and I love that kind of like where you have almost like these gothic surrealist sort of industrialized spaces where you just have a bunch of randomly placed platforms and stairs, and it looks almost paradoxical and German expressionist. And I don't know, I love it. It's really good. I love Doom 3. So any references to Doom 3, I'm like, yes, please, more. And then this, where the silent screen, basically. So I think this is the Asian girl, and this is the one of the other women. Not the Ripley woman, because she had straight hair. This woman has longer, wavy hair. But she's holding her friend, and I think the birth must have just happened. I don't know what this is, but it looks cool. You have a red laser, sort of like the scanning laser from uh, Aliens, where they're scanning the inside of the narcissist, and you can see that sort of blue outline to different objects. Here, it's like an airlocked scanner, and it looks like some kind of asteroid is flying into it. Probably not going to be good for the ship, but I don't know exactly what's going on. Also, that asteroid looked kind of organic. I love the I didn't even see the screen thing too. It's just the alien font slowly appearing, and that pitching tinnitus sort of thing going on, and then you have the sizzle reel. Oh my god, there's so many good shots, and they just go by so quickly. Yeah, I love that. That looks so cool. Oh, and this is all like actually shot too, I would imagine. In today's day and age, they can probably add some of this digitally, but to what extent, I don't know. And it looks like his eyeballs keep rolling, and then there's like these pupils on the other side. That's I don't know if he's like an android then, because that's doesn't seem human eyeballs don't roll that far. They don't work like that. And this is a ship crashing into. It almost looks like a satellite dish or something, but it's crashing into the ice. So this could be like an ice moon. That's not actually the same planet. So perhaps the ship was going to this station. This is maybe the end of the movie, very similar to the Sevastopol burning up in that game. So maybe they were flying to this dark, forbidden moon. It's very Frankenstein, right? Going to the land of ice and snow in Frankenstein, at the Mountains of Madness, Alien going to the cold fringes of outer space, going to a moon in the case of LV-426 and Alien. Again, this is a frontier enterprise, and in that barren frozen waste, bad things happen. And again, more orange, I like it, but also just a touch of blue here with the snow. And again, the ship is breaking up and there's no sound. And again, in space, no one can hear you scream, right? That's what they're doing. They're actually playing out there is no sound in space, which is kind of funny because in the original movie, you could hear everyone scream. So them doing that here is them finally actually having it be a little bit accurate relative to how space actually functions in regards to sound. It's a vacuum, so there's no noise. But everything looks really great. Okay, so there's this monster, and she has a gun, and she's shooting it. And there's a lot of like periodic kind of stuff, because when you see this thing giving birth, by the looks of it, like you have this hand and this sort of vaginal opening that's pushing an egg out. And then, but look at these fingers clutching the egg coming out of the vagina thing. And then this looks very similar to that. I love that. And then more shots, them sort of flying through. They have some kind of rifle. It kind of reminds me of Stranger Things, the upside down with the weird biomechanical fungus stuff and the orange lighting. So there's a lot of different sort of nods and visual things. But of course, the Duffer Brothers absolutely ripped off the retro future of Aliens and Aliens. So I like to think that, but again, all of this stuff bounces around in the same kind of creative space too. So, but very cool. I like it.
Are you sure you want to do this?
And then they have, again, the black screen and then the voice panning in from the right. And then you have our resident Ripley character. Again, she looks just a little bit tough, but she's being stared down by this big fucking alien. This is definitely a big chap, and she's the white woman being threatened by the Dark Menace. This is Athena's Aegis. She's looking at Medusa, black, white, settler colonial, that kind of thing. Scary. She's being threatened with rape. She's being threatened with a trans existence. There's so many different things that this can represent. I think she should give it a hug, but that's just me. And then she screams at the end. No colon here, so it's Alien Romulus, no colon. Grammatically kind of incorrect, but whatever. Yeah, no, that looks really good. It doesn't say when this is coming out, I don't think. August? It does. Okay, it does, except it's August. I can't see the number, but 13, 18, they're about only in theaters. Oh shit, that's not very long at all. That's less than 2 months. Um, a little more than 2 months actually. But even so, no, that's cool as hell. Yeah, yeah. So, looks really, really good. And then if we hold the thing over here, okay, August 16th. I don't know what day that is, but then we have executive producers Fede Alvarez, Elizabeth Cantillon, Brett O'Connor, and Tom Moran. I don't know who any of those are, except for the director. I don't know. Gallo Oliveras. I assume that maybe him and Fede work together. Alien Romulus. Okay, I'm trying to see the other thing. Written by, I can't see the writers, but editor. Yeah, so I don't can't really see any of the other names, but seems like a lot of new blood, or certainly people from. The editor isn't the same person that works for Ridley Scott, which makes me happy because that guy sucks. He completely chops up his movies and ruins the pacing. So basically a whole different group of people, and which is really neat. And again, they didn't have the siren the way that they did with the Prometheus trailer. Or the original Alien trailer. The style of this is a bit different. Again, in space, no one can hear you scream, so they're really working on that kind of sound, the silent scream, if you will. But yeah, no, that looks fucking cool, man. That's my thoughts. So my initial reaction is that it's awesome. My extended thoughts are that it's awesome, and I definitely want to watch it. And I love Fede as a director. I love that Ridley Scott's involved, because compared to James Cameron, who's like involved with his projects in a way that, one, I'm just not as big a fan of his work, but also two, his treatment of like the remastering of True Lies or The Abyss or Aliens, just he's using AI and stuff like that and moving away from like physical production. Whereas this seems rooted in that in a way that's much more reminiscent of Ridley Scott cleaning up, the original film for those the film master canisters, and like it's just much more physically oriented, right? When you deviate away from a physical medium, it's a very capitalist approach to things. It's very lazy too. So Cameron's kind of doing the George Lucas thing, whereas Ridley Scott isn't. He really stuck to his guns. He's a tough old son of a bitch. Love you, Ridley, never change. And Fede's really emulating that, and it makes me happy. I really look forward to this. And, it's a very hard R kind of film. It just seems like there's going to be a lot to appreciate. But, yeah, in any event, I don't normally do videos on here. I'm just in the middle of writing my book and stuff like that, and it's not something I can even promote on here because it's very X-rated, but I can't even give you the link to it because I was getting flagged by YouTube itself. But it's nice to have something that I just feel like, oh shit, I have to talk about this. So yeah, looks great. Definitely gonna be watching it. In the meantime, I'm just gonna be working on my book. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Are you excited for this? I am, but I'm Team Ridley over Team Cameron. Cameron kind of sucks, and Ridley Scott, by comparison, he's my boy. But yeah, so if you like that kind of stuff, let me know. There isn't really a lot of things like this, and I'm juggling so much right now. But if there's something comparable to this that you think that I might like to respond to in a very quick kind of manner, let me know, and I'll check it out. Until then, thanks for watching, and take care. Happy Pride.